When he woke up in the morning, he would say, I'm going to create a universe. I'm going to be God today.
Is there such a thing as reincarnation?
When it comes to aliens, there's some things I just can't tell you.
Isn't it one's purpose in life to find out these things?
Welcome, everyone, to a very special edition of Garnet Doom presents The Book of Black. I made a mistake last week and said that was episode 7. No, that was episode 6, the number of humans. This is episode 7, the number of God, and we're going to get to perfection. And oh, look at that! And our guest is wearing 7, and we're going to get to him in a second. Couple matters of business. One, I'm going to do an Arn Anderson and toot my own horn because this is the first week that I booked a guest. Usually it's the magic of PJ. I booked a guest, so toot toot to me, but it was through one of my horsemen. John, you know who you are. I'm not going to say your last name because you didn't tell me I could. I'm sure you wouldn't have cared, but John helped me out. So as a lot of you know, we were promising you Renee Michelle. Something happened. We're hoping to reschedule that. I'm sure we're going to put that on the books. So in emergency, I broke glass. I put up the back signal, but the back signal came back with the Boomaye signal, and Boomaye is for the people, and the Book of Black is for Mr. Thomas. Mr. Thomas from Major League Wrestling, but not representing the opinions or thoughts of Major League Wrestling. Mr. Thomas, thank you for coming into the Garnet Doom Book of Black.
Listen, anything I can do to help a friend of a friend. Johnny's a longtime friend of mine, a childhood friend. One of the people I was always lucky enough to watch wrestling with and play N64 for a very long time. So a random text message got us to this point. So I'm glad I could fill in for Renee Michelle. She's a good person. I'm sure she had much cooler things to do than hang out with us on whatever day of the week this might be. So we're here.
We could tell you, but we'd have to kill you. But we were very happy to have you. We're thrilled. This is great. I wasn't expecting this, and it was great. And no, it's not Johnny, the Johnny you think it is, because that would be through PJ. Duh. If it was Johnny, insert last name here. But we've given short shrift so far to the star of the show, the host of the show, the professor himself, Dr. PJ Black. How are you this week?
I'm doing all right. A little bit tired this week, but I'm very excited to get into this. You know, I haven't done much preparation, but I know a little bit about some of the top topics that we're going to discuss today, and I'm very excited.
Okay. Well, this is great. So, Mr. Thomas, before we get started, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh man, I'm a man of the people. But realistically, I'm a normal human that lives in a fantasy world. I think we all kind of do at this point. I'm a business owner. I can harp on that in a second, but most people might know me from my professional wrestling stuff that goes around currently. Currently working with MLW, Major League Wrestling. I'll get some plugs in now before I forget about it. We're in Atlanta, Center Stage next weekend. I believe it's September 14th. If you can't make it in person, it's fine. We're live on YouTube that weekend. I have a match. It's myself and Alex Kane, the Boombaye Fight Club, going up against the new Andersons, which is Arn Anderson's son, Brock, and CW Anderson. Regardless of all that, they can catch these hands. And Alex is from Atlanta, and we sold out last time. It'll be a sellout this time, so get your tickets while they last. All the fun stuff. Check us out, MLW.com. You can check me out on Instagram at Mocha Traps. Mocha like my skin color, traps like these traps hanging out of my lovely number 7 Diggs Cowboys t-shirt jersey that I'm wearing because it is Sunday wherever. And yeah, that's all the plugs I got. It's the last thing I'll pimp or sell out. All my thoughts are my own and not pursued or expressed by anyone associated with the Boombaye Fight Club or Major League Wrestling.
Excellent. Well, this is a free plug zone, so you don't have to feel shy about plugging or pimping anything if you feel the need and certainly the desire. And at the end of the show, there'll be
sure. I will plug my business. Check out Script King RX at scriptkingrx.com. It is a discount prescription card. It's the same thing as GoodRx, just formatted differently, and it's just me instead of a bunch of nerds in Boston. So I don't think we'll get too far into the topic of our shitty healthcare system and why drugs are overpriced in America. But if that's an issue that you have, anything from testosterone, Ozempic, Plan B, dick pills, they are all available for discounts through the discount prescription card. Again, scriptkingrx.com, script like prescriptions, king like king, rx.com.
Sweet. I think we have our first sponsor for the show. That sounds amazing.
Also absolutely available for sponsorship.
Well, I mean, PJ, I know you have lots of thoughts on pharma, but maybe that's when we circle back and have another show with our new friend. So All right. So you came up with a list of topics. I know that when John said, yeah, I think that they talk about the occult and stuff, you're like, I'm in. So this was literally his response to me. He goes, I've known the guy 30 years. I had no idea he was into this kind of interesting stuff. And I told him, I said, everybody has something. Everyone that's what the Prime show Garden of Doom was based on, is that everybody has an expertise or interest in something that somebody else might consider a little bit weird or out there. And that's what we want to explore. So he said the occult. You started with occult adjacent, but everything has ties to the occult. So what do you want to dive into first?
Oh man, I have this obsession with one. This is social media and it's good and it's bad, but there's this one Instagram page, and I'm going to enunciate it properly because I know I talk fast. It's siblings, one word, or second word, dating. It's a very simple task. Dude puts up a picture and a poll. Now, not to classify white people, but sometimes it's brown people. It's usually two white people who look exactly the same, and the poll just says dating or siblings. It's 50-50 every time. Maybe 51-49. It never makes sense. It's never predictable. Half the time they're dating, half the time they're siblings. It's just, it doesn't make sense. My question is, as someone who's multi-racial, which I know in this election year, people just can't fathom that somebody's parent is one color and their mother's another color.
What
Together
craziness
that
is
makes
this?
them two colors. With that being said, so as someone who has a white father and a black mother, being biracial, I have this thing where, not to unload a therapy session, I'm not really attracted to my mother. So black women just kind of aren't my thing. No offense to anyone who is or into that, but when I come across a page like this, it looks like these people are dating their brother or sister. And I can't wrap my head around it. And I'm more curious if that's is that something that is, just based off comfortability level or what you've been around or what you're used to? Because I look at my sister and she looks too much like me. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? And then other people I look and I'm like, brother, explain it to me. So I wanted to start there just because it is a little lighthearted and can be turned into a game. But there's some serious footnotes on this when it kind of boils down on how people think and act culturally.
Darewolf, it sounds like something you should jump in first.
No, I mean, I have so many questions. I mean, we had a very interesting guest on here a few weeks ago, a very high up Freemason, and he talked about how certain bloodlines only like go with certain bloodlines, and,
Sure.
and a lot of those bloodlines were related. So a lot of those could have been, sisters or brothers or half brothers or half sisters.
Mhm.
Jeff, I mean, what was one of the examples he gave? He said that Obama and Brad Pitt
Garfield, I think he said, were first cousins.
first cousins, and then those Brad Pitt and Obama were either like half brother or like something like that, which I found really weird. But I mean, who knows? Like I haven't really like looked into these things, but it wouldn't surprise me, like understanding like what we talked about last time, the bloodlines, how they just want to keep everything in the family, I guess, for lack of a better term. So yeah, I'm interested to dive into that.
I've seen that and heard that, and I feel like there's some very truth to that, because I think the deeper you go back to, I can't think of what's the two famous, like the McCoys versus whoever.
Hatfields.
That's what I picture when I hear like keep it in the family type thing. It's like, all right, every once in a while you may meet someone a little distant from the tree and you bring them in if they're accepted, but like if all else fails, you got your second cousin at the end of the line there we're gonna tie this all back together. And if that comes with like keeping the money and the wealth in the family, like I surely understand that. But this day and age, it gets to the point where like I feel like it's just more like a comfortability level. This guy looks safe. He reminds me of my brother, but like people aren't really thinking how fucking creepy that might be when it boils down to it. Like, but neither here.
Go from platitudes to getting deep and wild. So with platitudes, you always hear people say couples start to look like each other after a while. So on that Instagram page, I mean, one, I would think, for it to be very interesting to me, I think they need to be younger couples, because it actually is true that couples do start to look like each other after a while. I don't know if that's lifestyle, they just stop caring about hair.
I always chalk that up to being like same diet, same workout, same bullshit. Like you're probably getting the same amount of sleep. You do everything the same brand of shit type thing that kind of falls in line. I get that. And a very side note, to bring a little inclusion, once upon a time, so my background is in sales, corporate sales. I started out on a car lot. First time I ever heard someone use the term partner in the sense of like, not my business partner.
Right.
Dude was like, hey, yeah, he had an appointment 4:00. I'll be there with my partner. Sure, no problem. Guy pulls up and it's a middle-aged guy, male pattern baldness, round glasses, generic square beard, right? The shirt with the vest on over top, kind of looking like Uncle Cam from Family Matters. Dude gets out the car, husband, partner, whatever the title may be, looked exactly the same, like vest over top, round glasses. And I'm like, see, now this makes sense to me. Like from that perspective, I understand why you want to date someone that looks like yourself in a man-man relationship or female-female relationship. I've seen this episode of Broad City, but it just always boils back to everyone looks the same. And that blue eye comfortability, that's what it always comes back to.
Platitude number 2, which is in direct contrast to what your own experience is, Mr. Thomas, is that they say that boys want to marry their mother, not necessarily physically, but the same kind of traits. They want someone to take care of them, and girls want to marry their father. Now, maybe in the way families dynamics have changed, maybe that's breaking down a little bit in and of itself. But in your, I'll just say traditional, whatever that means, a nuclear family situation, maybe it is because that is safety, security, and familiarity. And birds of a feather do flock together, and people tend to be in neighborhoods with people who look a lot like them. Now, I don't, and I don't know if I'm the norm and that's the new paradigm, or if you go to the suburbs and it sort of is cultural, but I am in a suburb. It's so, but it's a suburb of Baltimore, and so it's I don't know. I don't know if my experience is common. So there's that other platitude there. Side note entirely. Sometimes you see people walking their dogs, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. They sort of look the same too.
I've heard that theory a lot.
I was just gonna say that, so I used to go to dog parks all the time, and I look at the dogs running around. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that dog belongs to that owner, and I'm usually right. Dogs definitely look like their owners a lot of the time, like probably like close to 100% of the time, which is weird. Which makes me think what you just said. Like, are people attracted to that, or is it just something inherently like they live the same lifestyle, they have the same diet, and they have the same surroundings, and that's something I never really thought about, but I'm going to think about that a lot this week now. Thanks for putting that into my head.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, I'm from Philadelphia, in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and I live in Tampa now because, all things Florida. And the big difference from what I've seen with people up there compared to down here, and the more that I've learned that when I've moved down here, religion's more of a big thing in Florida in the South. Obviously, most people know. So like, there's more of this family bond. Sometimes I poke at, because that's just not my upbringing. I have a small family, and we're not forced to hang out with each other every day, all day. But down here, some of these relationships are close, where they do every single Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're with their family. They're on the boat. They're at their picnic. They go to church. There's dinner on Sunday. So they're around their family more often. So I can see how that makes sense. I can like open my eyes and be more open-minded to it. For the record, there's very little things in my life that I'm like, there's a hard sell on. You can't convince me. But for the most part, everything's negotiable. I just want to mention that right now. So I'm coming into this with an open mind, and I'm not really one of those people where you'll never convince me that things are just a certain way. So I can understand and be like a little empathetic to some people. If you're around your 6'4" country-fed white brother who's a nice guy and was raised right by your parents, I can understand why that may be the exact definition of the guy you end up marrying. Kind of. I can understand it, but I can't justify it. Like, I get it. When my entire life, I spent my world trying to like date someone who looked the exact opposite of me. And like, I'm usually attracted to someone that is not even in, but again, that's me personally. It's all preference.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people are different. A lot of people are attracted to those things. I think a lot of it could be subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they make a conscious decision like, oh, I'm gonna date someone that looks like my dad or my mom or my brother, whatever, right? I think it's like subconsciously, it's something written in our DNA, perhaps. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just who knows? For me too, I'm definitely I'm more on the side of like my last 3 or 4 girlfriends were extremely exotic, completely different to me, and maybe it goes because we're wrestlers, we like fringe or exotic. I don't know what the term there is. Maybe
Sure.
that's
And I mean, from my perspective, I like to ask questions. Somebody told me a long time ago that like dating is the same thing as sales. You just have to ask the right questions to kind of figure out where you need to go. And one of the questions I always ask, this is not so much about the answer, it's just more about the response to the question and how they react. But I always ask, like, do you normally aim for men of color? And now there's no wrong answers to that question. And when I say it, even via text message, I try to like diffuse it as much as possible.
Well, there can be wrong answers, but I understand what you're saying.
There can be wrong. There's no wrong answer. Cause like, hey, if you're being honest and they're like, hey, no, I don't normally, but I found you attractive. I think you're this, that, and the next. Like, great, sure, give me a shot. Even if someone's like, I've only dated black dudes forever, like that doesn't make you this, that, or the next. It's just, I'm kind of, the reason I ask for it is because there can be some things that come with dating people of an opposite race in certain areas, things of that nature, despite the year that we live in. And not to harp on that, I just try to find out if they're aware of some of these issues that might pop up before we go out and about and you get called a skinny white bitch while we're walking through the club somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, so I try to say it in peace, but like, I do get it. I do get it.
You got no ass.
Oh, that's wrong, man. That's wrong. I've been, this is a real scenario. We're walking down past an Helium Comedy Club in front of Philadelphia. Ironically, Bruce was playing because I had to look up why the line was so long. And I'm walking with this girl who's from the suburbs. And this was probably 10 years ago. And I look back and I was like, listen, these girls are already looking. And I know they're going to talk shit because it's Philadelphia. And she's just, what do you mean? And right when we walk past, like, oh, that skinny white bitch. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Plus, you're an airport test guy. I mean, and for those people who don't know what the airport test is if you walk in an airport and someone walks by you, they look like they're someone or something, fairly or unfairly. I mean, you're well over 6 feet. You are a big, muscular man. Someone's going to see you. If they don't follow wrestling, they're gonna again assume, for right or wrong, in your case, right, athlete, something. There's something. And there's plenty of people who are, giants that work out that aren't doing anything, but still in the airport, you turn your head and go, what's up with that guy? And that's going to happen on the street too. And then when we see your girl, it's sort of like your open game, sort of in that regards. And those people who know you're a public figure know that you're open game because you've got stuff at stake as well, that you're not going to respond the way. All right. So another platitude of sorts is, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff. And it was interesting because actually this is PJ's fault, because he said, because we're in wrestling, and wrestling is an ensemble show. So you don't want a whole lot of people who look exactly the same and do the same thing on your show. So you're going to be exposed to people differently. I don't think it's that much different than I went to Emory, which had about 4,300 people, and most of them are going to be upper middle class rich folks, and most of them are going to be white folks. And while it wasn't a heavily Jewish school, it's at least 25% comfortable enough. And then so you're going to be there. But if you go to like maybe University of, I don't know, Arizona that has, and I don't know, I'm just going to throw out there 35,000 people, you're in a small city and you're going to be exposed to lots of different people and find different things that you're attracted to. So there is a little bit of that if you, depending on what circles you fly in, that all of that. That's boring. Now let's get into the wild stuff. Almost every creation myth that I know of, almost every religion that I know of starts with incest, basically, or there's incest, 1 or 2 generations down the line. And then there's usually another level of some sort of deity or half deity coming down and copulating. You want to call them the Nephilim, you want to call them the demigods, you want to call them the children of the Anunnaki. I don't care. Pick whatever you want, but it's so then you've got that, and then you have some of them sort of getting together, but you also always have sacred twins. And so you've got Osiris and Isis, twins, totally together. Adam and Eve. Eve's made from Adam's rib. Well, she's either a twin or a clone, right? I mean, what's up with and from them, from whence them begets and begets all of us, if it's to be believed. And all of their kids, they didn't have much in the way of options either.
Sure.
I am told by scholars of biblical studies, both Jewish and Christian, that none of that was wrong until Moses got the Ten Commandments. Now, I don't remember the one says, thou shalt not, diddle your brother or sister, but I guess it was implied at that time. And maybe that was in that 11 through 15 that fell down during history of the world.
Didn't make the cut.
Didn't make the cut, exactly. Moses only had 2 arms after all. But, the sacred twins, I mean, and it's, and those are all Near Eastern. Those are not white people necessarily. I mean, at some point you had Greeks and Romans and stuff there, Aryans, but also even in Japanese and Shintoism, there's sacred twins there. I cannot remember Chinese for the anyway, I can't remember what that story was, if that's sacred twins or not, but also in some of the Mesoamerican creation myths, sacred twins, and some of the First Nations and Native Americans. I try to separate those because I know some terms are very preferable to certain nations and peoples. But sacred twins is a repeating trope everywhere. So sort of incest is sort of holy, right down to the Lannisters, right?
Literally.
PJ?
Like I've never seen that website that you were talking about. I'm going to go check it out right now, but I've seen quite a few things where I'm sure you guys have seen it, the little video where they show like pictures of actors and they show like people who could have been them in the past, like those black and white paintings. You've seen that, right?
Very interchangeable.
Right. And these days you don't know. And these days you don't know with AI like what's real and what's not. But I mean, these things have been out for decades before AI was a thing. I'm sure they clean it up and they brush it up with AI now. So like, who even knows? But I mean, there's definitely a thing there. Like people, these conspiracies of people, of clones going around. And if you talk about clones to most people, the first thing is they'll just kind of switch off and be like, "Oh, you're crazy! Like, what are you, a conspiracy theorist or what?" But you have to think about it, right? Like, we live in a world with not a lot of free thinkers. Like, remember they cloned that sheep Dolly in the 80s, early 90s. Do you think they just stopped there, like with all that experimentation, all that technology, or whatever it is? Like, I don't think so. Like, once you're successful in something, you're not going to stop, right? So after that, that's a question we have to ask: is what else is there? Is this cloning possible? Why is it not in the mainstream media? Like,
it's been a little too quiet on the clone front since this sheep. Like, because we all remember, like, this is the greatest advancement in modern technology, kind of, sort of at the time, but to have 0 updates since then is wild. With the exception of like whatever famous, I want to say Dolly Parton, but like I had this conversation recently and someone told me it was definitely someone else, but Dolly comes to mind. She seems like a gal that would just have the same dog 7 times over. But when I think of cloning, I think of the sheep. And if you see right over my shoulder here, this is a English Bulldog painting that I bought from somewhere for like $50. But I had 2 English Bulldogs, and I have this conversation all the time where I would bring back both of them in a heartbeat. My ex has a dog who's the greatest dog of all time right now. I would absolutely risk cloning that dog, if nothing, just for the look and personality of the same dog. We can get into more of the craziness of, the Lamar Hamlin stuff that came out last year. The dude played for the Bills and collapsed and like died on the field and like came back. And then everyone thought that he was cloned for some weird reason, even though he's still shitty at football. Currently as we speak. But to focus on the animal thing, I'm very intrigued, and I want to know where the technology has gone since one sheep to like, is it affordable for not necessarily a common person, but a above average person who makes, between $100,000 and $200,000 a year? Is it affordable to get your dog cloned at that rate?
And just then, like the 4 horsemen, I have 4 things on that. And one is exactly on what you're talking about, almost.
Please,
the president of Argentina right now, his name is Javier Milei.
Scumbag for the record.
Might be. I don't know. In the beginning, I thought so, and now I'm not so sure. But it's a different country. I'm not going to comment on politics, and I don't know enough about any of that. But one thing I do know is he did exactly what you want to do. He's cloned his dog 7 times, so he keeps having the same dog. So it's been done now. He's not a comer. He's extremely wealthy, apparently. But there has been drips and drabs in the mainstream media of cloning that's come up now. So recently, within the last year, They cloned a pig's organ and put that into a human. They've been using pig organs for a long time, but this was a clone pig organ. Now, I think it was a kidney or a liver. I think it was a liver. It didn't work. They lived for 2 or 3 weeks and failed, but apparently that's not unusual in organ donations and transplants anyway, but they're going to keep trying that. 2, they have now successfully cloned meat. So, they're going to make regular beef for hamburgers and things like that without needing giant cattle ranch farms. And, on one side, you could say that's great for the environment. That's great for the animals. Maybe not so great for ranchers, but it's also scary as hell. Who knows what's in that, just because someone says it's USDA, choice or whatever. Is it now? I mean, how do we know? And then the other thing is they're starting to clone mammoth DNA and mix it with like some type of Indian elephant or whatnot, and they're going to repopulate the Siberian tundra
to get them to stop down the ice, right?
Yeah.
Something along the lines of that to help impact global warming and the temperature. I might not be following along as closely as you, but when I've heard that recently, and we're bringing back the mammoth to reinvent the ice age, more or less. I know I'm paraphrasing.
I mean, this is very confusing. I mean, I think it's something to combat the ice age. I guess get more of their farts in the air, but also to stimulate the ground because the permafrost is melting. But also there's other terrifying things coming out of the permafrost. I mean, you've got these microbes and bacteria and diseases from millions of years ago that humans, we've developed immunities to lots and lots of things over our, lifetime. But, we haven't been around, in any sort of form for more than 7 million years, give or take a little bit, or depending on who you're thinking, who you're listening to. But that's on the cloning. But as far as other cloning, yeah. Do I think that somewhere they're trying to make super soldiers? Absolutely.
The boys ain't just based off someone's comic book. Like I feel like there's truth to every story, but to question a few things off of what you just said. My biggest question is, if the pig organ died in 2 weeks, what does that do to my stomach if we're cloning a pork roll, whatever the case may be, a hot dog, whatever may also come from a pig? Let's say theoretically bacon is the most popular product, most likely. If we're cloning bacon from a pig, but yet that pig organ didn't last 2 weeks, what's that do to my stomach 2 weeks after I ate it? Is probably the first question of where I'm going. And then from that question, it's, we're bringing back an animal. Have we not seen Jurassic Park? That's not to make, I'm sure, a movie into real life, but there are some dangers that come with bringing back things that are no longer here, and what the trickle effect on the humans that might have. Granted, we want to stomp down whatever the Arctic floor is in the North Pole, yada, yada, yada. But like, how's that affect the people at the South Pole and everywhere in between? I'm cool when it comes to little tiny animals that are like, unknowing to what's going on and not really going to endanger much of the world. But when you're talking a whole population of species or food that's supposed to feed an entire world or population of humans, it gets a little dicey.
Dr. Ian Malcolm would tell you, chaos theory, nature finds a way. So that was Jeff Goldblum's character in Jurassic Park. That's what I'm typing away furiously about. All right, I know that PJ wants to jump in here because it's completely in all of his wheelhouses.
Hell yeah!
No, I'm just thinking. I'm fascinated. I was just thinking about Dolly right now, and thinking about all my friends who have acted really weird after they've been on long trips, and now it's just making me think, oh, is this guy a clone? Like, and how does that technology even work, right? If you read the sci-fi books, like you said, like a lot of these stories, there's some truths in it. And a lot of soft disclosures, if you know these people that know more than us, right? They always say that these soft disclosures are always in movies or in comic books and stuff like that. So, and I mean, some of the sci-fi stuff is just so outrageous to think about, but like, you have to, in the back of your mind, think there's a little bit of truth in all those things, right? I mean, since we're all in wrestling here, let's get straight into it. Like, John Cena lived in China for like 3 years. He was gone. Nobody knew where he was. And before that, I 1 year, I think I wrestled him like probably 30 or 40 times on live events. We were married, like I wrestled. And this guy, when he came back, he was just completely different now, speaks like full on Mandarin, and like he's just a completely different human. Like I can't have the same conversations with him.
Did you beat him once?
Oh, I beat him quite a few times on the
All
live event.
right. Okay. Super Cena's kryptonite.
Very nice.
Well, maybe that's the clone, you know, who knows? I don't know.
All right. You never beat him, you just beat the clone.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be a great movie, actually. That'd be a funny movie since all these things kind of come true. You know, people are like all these conspiracies. No, that's just from a movie. That's just from a movie. It's like, but these things are coming true, like you just mentioned.
Somewhere in an alternate universe, in a different timeline, you are John Cena. You're the movie star. You're the peacemaker, and he's sitting around on a couch talking to me.
Or maybe that's just like my better side. Like, no, he's definitely a clone because I couldn't beat him the last time or whatever it is.
How to give his T-shirt back?
That makes for some interesting conversation.
Yeah, that is some wild stuff, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah, I think some of the questions that it sparks me, it's what is the process? One of my favorite movies is The Prestige. Like it's probably one of my top fives. I know it's a little gimmicky and I'm not a magic person, but the story to that kind of falls in line with what we're talking about here. He has this power. And then it brings me to the question I have is what is the process of cloning? Like if John Cena gets cloned today, does he come out 45-year-old John Cena in human form? Or is it, if I were to get my dog cloned, is dog as is or as a puppy, or like, where do we start from there? But also in the same path of cloning, I guess we're kind of close to I guess there's one dude that has a Neuralink out there, which not to make everything into a movie, but the movie Demolition Man, they were frozen. And when Wesley Snipes woke up, this motherfucker knew jujitsu, could use every weapon in the world, and was a computer hacker, at a time where he didn't have computers before he was cryogenically frozen, which interests me personally as someone who struggles to learn Spanish. I want things like that, but like, what are the risks? I love it for the quadriplegic guy who can play Call of Duty now, for him, but like, how are we making, this specific type of cake? And not to link Neuralink in with, cloning, but like it all kind of goes into the same, what's the process here?
No, absolutely.
What's the trial and error here? How much bad has to happen for a regular person to be like, yeah, let me make an educated decision off if I want to do that to myself or somebody else, or, your child, if you have one, or whatever the case may be. There's a million different things and examples, but.
Well, let's break that down then. So since everything is kind of like the movies, right? Art imitates life
Sure.
in a way. So in the movies, when they do clone this dog or person, they have like the same traits, like they have the same mannerisms, the same thoughts. Like, I mean, if you were married, you'd obviously remember your wife's name or whatever it is. But like from the movies now, like they kind of slowly download more info, like the more intricate info, like what was your favorite pet when you were young or stuff like that. And I mean, that comes down to, if you look at our DNA, that's basically just like a hard drive, right? It's like, I think I told Jeff about this once. So there was a scientist who took a piece of his nail. He took the DNA of his nail and he could download his ebook onto this, because it's like a hard drive. DNA is like a hard drive. And he could download it back and forth from his computer to this nail. Right. So we know that DNA is just like a hard drive, like we're just walking electromagnetic beings. So, I mean, maybe there's some alien hacker who've already, if you look at the Anunnaki stuff, I mean, those guys, if you believe those stories, those guys have figured that out, right? They know how to like clone things and make things in a lab and all that stuff. So I don't know how far you want to push that stuff, but I mean, I always look at movies and I'm like, yeah, what if this is true? You start thinking about that, right? That's what a futurist does. And I see myself as a futurist. People were like, oh, you predict the future? I'm like, no, that's not how it works. We kind of put ourselves in the future and we walk backwards. I was a teenager when the internet came out, and I remember my mom was like, that's so weird. Why would you talk to strangers online? I was like, no, you don't understand. One day we'll be like video calling each other. And in hindsight now, we all saw that coming, right? But like at the time, nobody saw that coming. So what if this is like something like that? Like it's completely possible to clone your dog or your wife or whatever, or yourself, but we're just not there yet. I mean, our brains can't think of that yet. For us, it's just like, oh no, that's a movie. That's very sci-fi. But I mean, like you said, like look at all these things that have come true, like the Neuralink, like all these things. It's like we live in a Jetsons episode, you know, like we have self-driving cars now, and like look how far the internet and computers and AI and all this stuff has come. Like I just think that anything is possible. Like you cannot count any of those things out. Like that's to me, a lot of those things exist already. But I mean, maybe they're keeping it away from mainstream for who knows what reason. You know, maybe they're trying to keep the technology back, trying to keep us safe, or whatever the reason is. But I mean, I fully believe in all of those things. I mean, look at every single conspiracy that has come true over the last few years only.
Well, there's
They
always
don't,
an exception.
they don't want me to
keeping us
speak
safe.
Spanish and talk to all the Latinas. I can feel it. It's just
Well,
it's going against me.
well, listen, look at me, Mr. Exceptions to the rule. I don't speak Spanish. I'm married to an Ecuadorian woman who barely spoke English, when we first met. And everyone's like, how do you make the relationship work? I'm like, that's the only reason it did work.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, if you go back to the 50s and the 40s, people were writing about this, and it's real now. So, I mean, Philip K. Dick, Blade Runner. I mean, how far away are we really from Blade Runner right now? iRobot. I mean, iRobot was just Jurassic Park with a different type of technology, and all of that is right there. There's tons of stuff, but there are. I mean, Lex Luthor's entire existence, like for the 4 decades, is to make himself like Superman, and one of them is to download his brain into other bodies, including like a hybrid, which I guess became Superboy or something like that. But this is real, and I know some people on the other side of the world in parts of Europe, and I don't want to give up anyone's name, but they are pretty sure, and they say, I don't have anyway, fact check this, that it's fairly commonly believed, I'm not going to say common knowledge, I'm going to say fairly commonly believed that Vladimir Putin has many body doubles, and if you look at him in different circumstances, that physically he looks different now, and they blame it on sickness and whatnot, and apparently another rumor is that his kidneys are failing, he's in poor health, and so you can tell the sometimes he's puffier, and the signs. But I have no doubt that somewhere, someplace, somebody has cloned, because the technology is there, and I'm sure they tried and erred, and the ethics of it, they're probably like, these are just artificial people, because it's always about ethics, and ethics always get bent for what somebody can rationalize. I'm going to do this because everyone's going to be able to live forever. We can preserve organs. We don't need to rely on dying people to do transplants. But someone else in the back of their mind, like going, yeah, but now I have an unlimited amount of soldiers, or now I got an unlimited labor force. And wasn't that the heart of Blade Runner? Are we not people? Are we not humans?
Everything gets weaponized, unfortunately. It's just the world we live in. But I still want the easy way out. I can't learn Spanish. I just want to learn Spanish. I think there's so many good things, like for the Neuralink, and I can't really justify more than like 1 or 2 selfish reasons of why I would clone someone or an animal, but I'm sure someone has their reasons out there.
I'm sure the reason.
I have a question though. If you had the ability, would you clone somebody, or would you make a robot that would do all those things exactly the same, except it's just not an organic human being?
Let me take this out of a human being form. I'm very obsessed with these robot dogs that they have up in whatever Boston freaking robot company that is. They interest me mainly because in a perfect world, there's an off switch where I can leave and go on vacation and come back and the dog is fine. In dog to dog, I would probably clone the dog before I had a robot dog. Just because, I don't think the robot has what I'm looking for when it comes to that personal, like personality. I don't want to teach the robot to be the personality that I want it to be, because I feel like it just won't match up. As opposed to a dog, which either just does or does not have the personality, or it accepts your personality and it, bounces off of that type thing. Same thing.
Glitch, it becomes Chucky or Cujo.
Yeah, well, I guess that's also that could be any normal dog too, but the robot version of that sounds even worse.
That's the dilemma in the movies usually, right? It's like clone this thing or the robot. It doesn't have that soul. It doesn't have the love. It doesn't have the feeling. The robots don't have the feeling, right? But I mean, if we're just like computer programs. Why can that not be programmed down the line? Maybe the technology just hasn't caught up yet.
I can justify the human body parts though, like deep down inside, like you understand how that works. Cause I know the list of, these terminally ill people on the list, there's kidneys, there's hearts, there's lungs and things of that nature. If there was an easier solution to a million things in the world, and, that would probably be better off, but we're not in our lifetime, I think. If so, it's not going to be available to podcasters or wrestlers. You know what I mean? It's going to be the top 1% of the top 1%, and we'll never, ever hear about it.
But John Cena in the Rock.
I think we're already there. I think that the 1% of the 1%, they're already like playing with these things. That I'm just curious how far it's pushed, right? Like have they frozen human bodies yet? What else have they cloned since Dolly, and what other super soldiers have they made? Those are the questions that we need to try and uncover here.
And I wonder how many of these Putin, lookalikes are more just, the same 6-foot Russian dude with the same build that they shipped off to Moscow to do plastic surgery on, and to just to get carved up for 2 or 3 years. Cause we all know that process. We've seen the good and bad of plastic surgery. And I think we're at the point where if your structure, I don't know what exactly the words would be. If you had this, and this that matched up with Putin, for example, you would be a more likely candidate for certain simpler plastic surgery procedures. You can recover, and you can do one this month, recover, blah, blah, blah. In 3 years, you have someone that looks more like him. I think in that country, that's probably the more likely scenario with the amount of, soldiers and things that they probably recruit and people that they're looking for, as opposed to stand in this machine and we'll see if you come out on the other side. But who knows the process?
It's true. It's also maybe it's why they're invading Ukraine, because Putin's a little bit of a shorter guy, and Ukraine's near the mountains, and that's sort of where you get shorter people from usually, the mountain folk. All right. So I think we could talk about this forever, but we won't get to the topic number 2. So what was your topic number 2 there on the list?
That was topic number 2. We rolled right into the clones, which I think we roll right into, the ever-ending question of like, at what point do we end up in the Matrix? Or where are we in the simulation? And I know we talked a little bit about Demolition Man and the things that you can kind of, get for a neural link or some type of brain upgrade. But if the Matrix kind of was the same thing but different, if you're plugged into a machine, if you have access to the information without having to learn things in long form and study, and it's just you kind of wake up and you can jump from one building to the next. Like, where does the world end? Are we closer to the Jetsons? Are we closer to the Matrix? Which is a question that I try to ask often, because if you look at the timeline of both of those things, we're there almost on the calendar. But technology-wise, we're, as a public, we're still in the dark. This is shit I think about every day for the most part. But I see certain patterns and things and waves that happen where I'm just curious what the hell's going on in everybody else's world, because I know we can all be locked inside of our bubble. But to think that, the little song and dance that I do on a daily basis is done 6 billion times around the world in various forms, and I cross paths with these people, just kind of blows my mind. I know it's a lot, but
it is. No, this is PJ's thing.
That's an interesting question. It's like, are we closer to this movie or this movie? I think it's a little bit of everything. I mean, look at iRobot, right? Yeah. I think Elon Musk is that guy, isn't he? I mean, he has a whole fleet of robot cars. Like, people think Teslas are just cars. They're just robots on wheels, really. Mm-hmm. And then apparently next year they're bringing out those robots who look exactly like the movies from iRobot. Have you guys seen it? And the basic tasks that they can do around the house. And I mean, that's just the start, right? Like, who's not to say this cannot be hacked? And it blows my mind. And people think that's really far away, but it's not. Like, I've driven these self-driving cars from LA to Vegas completely without touching the wheel. It was fascinating to me. And apparently, like, that software, I think they just uploaded the new update, which is also crazy, because every time there's a new update, the satellites send it to all those cars out. So, and eventually, every time the car makes a mistake, all the other cars will learn. And then eventually, when the robots come out, every time they learn something new, like how to do something or how to think for themselves or whatever the case may be, it's going to instantly send it to all the other robots and the cars on the planet. So I think it feels like we're very close to that movie too. But I mean, also all of the above, because there is legit an AI company called Skynet. And I was like, hasn't these mofos seen Terminator? Like, why even like call it that? If we know that life imitates art and vice versa, but why even like go that direction of calling it Skynet? That blows my mind. I was like, it's almost like they want these things to happen. It's like speaking these things into existence.
Let me ask you this question. It's on topic but off topic. As a car guy, I have been my whole life. It comes from my dad and my grandfather. There's a lot of hate amongst Teslas with the car guys, and which is strange to me because, again, not to get political, some of my closest friends are more right-leaning conservative Republicans who I would expect to be more behind the views and outlook of an Elon Musk, who just despise Tesla, despise electric cars. Is that more of the technology you speak of that's in the cars, you driving from LA to Vegas with your hands off the steering wheel, or is that just more of a just getting away from the traditional of how we do things? Because everybody hates change, but the car guys especially hate electric cars. I'm indifferent. I don't think Tesla is a top tier product when it comes to the things I like in cars. I'd rather my dashboard be more than just an iPad. But I think some of the more, like the Rivian, for example, is one of the more nicer, elegant electric cars that provide more than just your plain Jane base model go back and forth. So again, I asked the question, is the hate on electric cars because of the technology it's in the electric cars, or just the fact that it's not gasoline?
That's a great question, and I think it could be a little bit of both. And if you study history and you look at these cycles, right? We in the 20s they had electric cars. They had electric cars before they had the gas cars that we have now, right? And they were also, you can go look into this stuff. I promise you, they had cars there that could go 1,000 miles on a charge. I mean, a Tesla right now can only do like 250 miles per charge, and like these are like cycles, right? They go to like from electric to they had like hydrogen cars back then, and then somehow it came back to the gas cars. I mean, those are just normal cycles, I think, and I mean, 50 to 100 to 300 years from now, it'll be something completely different. Who knows on that? But I mean, I really liked it. I like technology, and Tesla to me isn't a car company. It's not a car at all. It's a robot. It's an AI company. It goes so much deeper than just a car. And what you described, the car with the iPad, the lower tier models that you can get for cheap, that's what they look like. But the fancy ones, like they have everything that the Mercedes has in, like they have all the bells and whistles, and it's crazy. They have even the sports are coming out right now, like going from 0 to 100 in like less than a second. That's insane. I mean, is that going to kill like Ferrari and Bugatti and all these supercars like sales? Who knows? We'll see. I mean, you made an interesting point there too. Like, is it them against the technology? But like, a lot of people are against the person too. They're like, oh, they don't like this guy's political views, so obviously I'm just not gonna like anything he does, But the Tesla does bring out some amazing stuff, like the solar batteries and the solar panels they have now, and the AI is so far advanced. It's so ahead of everybody else, and like maybe in the future people will license that software out without even knowing, and they also built the infrastructure for the chargers everywhere. So like Rivian and Ford and all these companies bringing out electric cars now, they're gonna have to. They don't have the infrastructure yet, right? So that's essentially like Tesla owns all the electric gas stations around the world. People are just gonna have to license it out. So yeah, it's a very interesting time that we live in, and who knows how it's going to play out. I mean, for me, it's going to play out like iRobot, but I've been wrong before.
I like to look at the benefits of things like that. For example, and I know you kind of touched on this, you mentioned on this, but like, not to make this a car podcast, but I think all the new Lamborghinis going forward are now like hybrid, because we learn that the crazy amount of power that these electric cars make, you're just only foolish not to incorporate that into your new machine that you're building. And everything now seems to be a hybrid of, a little bit of gas, a little bit of electric to kind of piggyback off the wattage and voltage to get that easily that horsepower up. But there's some good things that have come from it. I mean, I didn't think we'd be at this point where a hybrid would have 1,000 horsepower. I didn't think that was possible. I thought, it's either electric and the brakes work and the gas goes, or it doesn't, you plug it in. But it's definitely a crazy time to be alive. And I think there's a lot of good that comes from it. It's just, I just don't see I have no hate towards the 100 people in my building who have Teslas or electric cars that are plugged in. We have 10 different stations here just in my complex alone. I don't want to hate on somebody for trying something different. And I think they were sold a false hope of like, oh, there's no gas anymore, and like it'll be free, essentially free gas. But obviously they're paying for electric in a different way. But it's things change. But the miserable people always stay the same. So you can't please everybody.
Well, you can hate people for there being less parking spots, but I mean, I think reasonable minds can differ on why I'll call them gearheads, just because that I mean, I hate to be in like pejoratives or whatever, but we have to find shorthand instead of making every sentence a paragraph. I think on one side, the gearheads actually love the feel of the engine. They respect all the moving parts of it, the language of the engine, the feel of an engine that works right, the rumble under, basically under your ass and legs when it's moving, even when it's moving smoothly. And so the electric is sort of cheating. So I do think there are some purists like that, which is a little bit of what you touched on, which is nobody likes change. Now let's go into more of Garnet Doom territory. I think there are those who, while they might have respected or respect Elon Musk as whatever, they're not so sure that they can trust his intentions, or somebody else will take that technology. They trust Elon, but not the rest of the world. And it will lead to implants. And when you get vaccinated, you get chipped. And right now we lose 6 hours a day. We have no idea because we're doing the bidding, we're slaves. And then we get Men in Black at the end of the day, not PJ Black, but, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. And we're doing Anunnaki bidding. We just have no idea. And, we're all always tired, and they say, you're not just tired, you're just depressed, or you have long COVID or whatever. But the technology is creeping in, and we're all going to become demolition men. But that worked out real well for demolition man, but not everyone in his way, until the end, of course. But that, who knows what's going on. So I do think that there's some of that there's a lot of libertarianism, but libertarianism at a certain point, whichever, if you want to call it, the right-wing libertarianism, everything sort of twists back. They call it the Omega branch now. I actually coined the phrase dorsal wing a few years ago, but it didn't take. Omega, where sort of whichever side you're on at the extremes, you can't really, I don't know that anyone could tell could give you a compelling definition. What's the difference between Nazi Germany and Stalin's Russia or USSR? And they came from different ideologies, but sort of ended up in the same place. You sort of have, what's the difference between Antifa and, I don't know, insert white supremacist, uber libertarian militiamen. At the end of the day, they do the same thing. So, and now we're starting to stray into politics, but I hope it's fringy enough politics that doesn't really bother anyone.
When the smoke clears on these electric cars, it all boils down, for me, it's just one thing. I don't want anyone to have an access to turn my fucking car off for any reason whatsoever.
Really practical points.
For no reason. I don't care if it's because you're going to tell me you're going to veer my car off because there's an accident this way. Let me find out for myself. Or if the cops are chasing, no, I don't want, whatever the situation is, I don't want to allow anyone to have that type of access into my life. You know what I mean? So I feel like there's a big level of privacy there for myself, because like technology, satellites, software updates, things that piss me off when I sit down and try to play this PlayStation for the 20 minutes that I have in a free day, and it takes 35 minutes to upgrade the software. I don't want to get in my car and go wherever I need to be and have to deal with the same thing, more or less. But I digress. I know we kind of launched on that a lot, but
that's interesting.
Digression's allowed.
That's interesting because I think about this a lot. That's one of the first things people say. Like, I don't want this person to switch off my whatever. But this happens in life all the time. I mean, look at social media. It's anything that's centralized can and will be controlled eventually. I mean, you can go look at history. This always happens 100% of the time. That's why anything centralized fails. That's why Rome fell. That's why every single government in history will fall, because they focus on that centralized power. But yeah, coming back, it's weird. Like, that's one of the first things people think of. Like, I don't want them to switch off my car, but then you look at other things in your life, like they can switch off your phone at any time. They can shut off your bank account at any time. I just had both my bank accounts shut for no reason. They literally just a letter saying, oh, we can't do business with you according to the contract. And I was like, what? They let me get it out. But like, I mean, these things, the people have this much control over us. And I mean, yeah, I don't know how we ever stop that. And this is a completely different discussion for a different day, but yeah, they control pretty much everything.
Yes, sir. And here we are. Tesla.
Indeed.
That's why we got to fight for those few things that they don't, you know, like we got to fight for the gas electric cars and all this new technology. Like, you know, some of the technology would make us freer eventually, you know, but I mean, I feel like that's also why we were in kind of like a little mini cyber war, because, you know, people want control of that, you know, like, I don't know if you guys follow this, not to go on a technology harp again, but you were talking about Millet the other day. And then what's the guy in France? They wanted a backdoor into, the government wanted a backdoor into Telegram.
Yeah,
Telegram said no. Telegram said no, and they arrested the guy. They arrested the CEO because they couldn't get a backdoor. So this probably happens with a lot of things, you know, like, and I mean, this will definitely happen with Tesla and electric cars, and if everything is driven by freaking technology. I mean, this can and will happen probably eventually down the line, but there are ways for us to stop that from happening, and that's why it's important to teach our kids and our friends and family of how these things work. You know, there are things called freedom technology out there. I won't go on too much about that. Maybe we can do a whole episode on that one day, Jeff. But I mean, yeah, interesting times.
To put a nail in this a little bit, like from a salesperson, a business owner's perspective, I like the things that the government, is one fucking thing I'll ever say in my life. I don't mind the things that they've done with the incentives for electric vehicles, whether it be new, used, rebates. I think in New Jersey, there was like no sales tax or 3%, whatever the case was, and that's going up to incentivize people for that, which I think is great, to give people an additional option to what they have. But to politically, I think now it seems that it's been, again, weaponized to be more political, and they want you to switch to electric cars. And I don't see why anyone would want everyone to switch to electric cars, except for all the negative things that we just said in the past 2 minutes. But I get why you would want everyone to have a variety. And I don't know how Tesla, you know, and Musk got all these, you know, rebates and, you know, government programs to assist with buying all these electric vehicles. But hey, good for him. I hope when I have a product that goes national that the government helps me get off the ground like that. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, for me, that's just proof that he works for them. And you know,
Sure.
I think them or they or whoever these 1% of the 1% is that control everything. You know, like, it just proves that he works for them. He's just one of them, because like he gets all the government contracts, like with SpaceX and all that stuff. So if we're ever scared of someone like taking control of that technology or building in a back door, he's definitely not the guy to trust, I think.
Because it's wild to me that he's always the one screaming from the literal mountaintop when like pot kettle, like that's all.
Yeah, no, it's true. I guess in his mind, he probably thinks, I don't work for the government, they work for me. And, you know, Boeing sort of messed up their Starliner, and who'd they call? They called SpaceX to go rescue our astronauts. And that's gonna call in a lot of favors going forward, you know, for 5 decades at least. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's that old, does the dog wag the tail or does the tail wag the dog? And sometimes there's a little bit of both. And I guess you go which benefits you more. And if you're Elon Musk, it's all about, I mean, let's face it, he's not a fully formed regular person. And with that allows him the drive to just continue to go forward and do what he wants to do. At the same time, when you continue to drive doing what you want to do, you're going to create messes behind you and run over some people along the way. And that's called speed bumps, or you say the cost of doing business. And, you know, I don't know.
That is the problem, I think. Like, that's the cost of doing business, and they don't care about humans so much, or not everyone, you know, like how many people have to die in wars and for these new technologies, like the Neuralink, for example. Like, then that guy, the first guy, something happened to him, and all of a sudden, no news, nobody's talking about that, right? That was just swept under the rug, and now version 2 is out. That's so much better. I was like, what happened to version 1? Like, what happened to that guy?
Well, he's become a Vladimir Putin body double.
Yeah, or he's already a super soldier or something. Who knows?
He might be, or you know, he's the trained polar bears are, you know, are testing on him. So something. I'm big on trained polar bears after all. I mean, weaponize the polar bears. I mean, anything to preserve them, right? It's environmental. You gotta weaponize them. Okay.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. If they use these technologies for good, like stuff like that, like bringing back the dodo bird and stuff like that, but instead that's not going to happen. You know, they're going to build super soldiers. They're going to build machines cars that could control our lives instead of making our lives better. You know,
but they'll only bring back the dodo birds to make Kentucky Fried Dodo. I mean, you know, it'll be to have another thing on gourmet menus, and then yeah, it's great. You brought back the dodos, but you brought back the dodos just to have them in industrial form, you know, ranch farms, you know, so that I can say, did you eat dodo yet? Of course I ate dodo. That's cool. Tastes like chicken.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm going to get a lot of heat for that, but I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right. Well, you know, there's something to that, because, you know, if you believe in, you know, the climate change, whatever is gonna kill all humans. I mean, most animals are better equipped to survive that than we are, especially birds that can fly to high places. So, you know, maybe in the end, you know, nature does strive to find its balance, or maybe, you know, God does, or maybe the Matrix does, or maybe they're all one and the same. Dun dun dun.
I wish someone would hook me up. Everyone's got like, where do I come in? When can I be a test pilot on one of these things? That's all I want to know. Help me out. I think I'm off the list now that I'm on this podcast, but
yeah, you're off a lot of lists doing this podcast.
We're on a lot of lists now. It's okay.
Yeah, that's right. Everything's a mixed blessing.
But these are just for entertainment purposes. These are just our views. It doesn't reflect our views of the companies that we work for and the people that we surround ourselves with. You know, this is just like fun little conversations to see where it goes. It's no different than watching a sci-fi movie or reading a good sci-fi book. It's just us lads having a discussion.
Well, I also think that I feel like I need to assure Mr. Thomas, I think of our 7 episodes, there have been at least 3 that were far more controversial than this one. So I think that if everybody's listening to them all, I don't worry. I think you're good.
Sounds good.
And we've touched on a lot of subjects here too, and I'd love to in a few weeks circle back to a few of these. I want to do some research and some reading, and you know, we can talk about it again and see what we've come up with. It's really fascinating to me. So if you would, we'd love to have you back on in a couple of weeks. That'd be amazing.
Absolutely. Let's run it back. I know we're coming close on time here, but let me ask you guys, from an outsider's perspective, what are the new topics? Because I feel like I'm still stuck on climate change, or global warming, or whatever we call it now. Living in Tampa, Florida, I can confirm that it's fucking hot. I've been here. This is my 2nd full summer here, and I can tell you this summer is way hotter than last summer, and last summer was probably hotter than the summer before. It doesn't snow a lot in the Northeast. I'm not sure why. I don't know how that calendar works or where we're at, but you can't tell me it's not the hottest summer every summer, and it's not the hottest day of the year. I follow this one meteorologist who's just like, it's the hottest day ever in the history of ever. Like whatever 3 Mondays ago we just had. But outside of the normal stuff, what are the hot topics in your world this past couple weeks, for example? I know it's an election year, so I'm trying to block everything out.
Okay.
We've had everything from Anunnaki origin stories to aliens to Bigfoot to a bunch of different conspiracy theories.
This is the season for Bigfoot hunting. Once hunting season's back again, like it makes perfect sense. The new thing, aliens underwater, has interested me. It makes more sense in looking up than, like, obviously we don't know what's down there. That's a big one for me, and the sea in itself has really scared me more than anything. The more you dig, I kind of stay off the water and out of the water anymore. I'm more of a pool guy than a beach guy now. But
me too.
I try to stay ears to the street, but also I have a big issue with like scrolling or digging for things, again, because the year ends with like 4, and you know, whatever happens in November is not really my priority, and I don't want anything else to get like in the way of that. So I try not to search too deep on the internet.
I will tell you things that are in my world that so Garden Views is probably the 3rd and probably belongs on a different feed, to be honest, because it's a little bit more, you know, grounded, I suppose, than Matrix. And you know, and don't forget, I'm the one who started Garnet Doom, so I'm not saying that like, you know, it's an insult or anything or a slight. It's just different. I'm very concerned about what the space economy is going to be. I'm very concerned about us repeating all of the mistakes of the past, only that we probably can claim actual ignorance that there are no sentient beings, you know, in near space anyway. Though, I mean, you know, conspiracy theorists would tell you otherwise, and maybe they're right. But everything else, public-private partnerships, you basically have the Hudson Bay Company, the British East India Company. You have, you know, you had British troops garrison being commanded by private, mid-level management and upper-level management. And listen, I live in the Mid-Atlantic. Every county here is the name of a family that they've got a charter. Yeah, half the streets are people who got charters and land rights. Like Lord Baltimore, Lord Calvert. I know, I know some of their Claggets. I've met some of them personally. And then big tobacco and all of that. So I'm worried about that with space. But I'm also, because the space economy, I keep being assured is sort of out of our technology now. But magnates don't worry about it now. Magnates worry about the next 40, 50, 60, 100 years. But now, deep sea mining. And I think that, and it's the same exact thing. Now, that's where your aliens underwater becomes interesting, because if you start hitting on some of their stuff, well, then you get basically the plot of Black Panther 2, right? You get the Atlanteans, or whatever Tulacons, whatever they decide to call them in that movie, saying, okay, they left us alone for a while. We could deal with the garbage and whatever, but we knew this day was going to come, but now here they are knocking at our door. We're going to protect our vibranium. But those are some of the things that are my concern, that are wild. Definitely climate change. And I have a lot of people who I like and respect who say there is no such thing as climate change that's man-made. It's just part of a cycle. And my response to that is, instead, I'm always looking for false choice. Like if I think on my gravestone, my epitaph should say false choice. I'm like, what's the difference? What's the difference if it's man-made or cyclical? Because some of the solutions are the same either way. You're gonna have to, whether you believe men made this or not, you're still gonna have to build seawalls so that Manhattan exists in 20 years. Otherwise, the financial center of the world goes away and reverts to Britain, if in fact it ever did leave London. But that's a really long answer, isn't it?
On that topic, that'll tie in a lot of both of your questions. I don't know how much you guys know of. If you don't know of this, go down this rabbit hole. Tartarian mud floods.
Yeah, that whole show on Andrew Goff did it. It's called Tartaria. So yeah,
Tartaria. Go down that rabbit hole, and it'll be fascinating, because it'll answer a lot of these questions that we just asked, but it'll also bring up a lot more questions. And it also ties into all the the religious the floods and then the resets of the earth and like that. It's fascinating, and I'm not going to say too much about that, but yeah, go down that rabbit hole.
I totally understand. That very much interests me, because again, with now where I live, knowing that the Tampa Bay and the Gulf of Mexico is literally on the other side of my apartment building, as opposed to being very inlet in Philadelphia, but also knowing that it didn't snow the last winter I was in Philadelphia, which I found super weird. And then now that I'm down here, it seems like we have our hurricane season, but every year it's worse, and it rains worse, and the floods are worse. And just this past week when I was out of town, it rained 3 or 4 days in a row. Thankfully we're at the tail end, but like, how many times can Tampa just be missed?
And I mean, these things definitely change, we have seasons. Those are the weather patterns. Sure. And I mean, if you can zoom out, and those 4 seasons that we have in 1 year, we have that in a decade too, and in 2 decades. And you can go back into the 2,000-year cycle and the 10,000-year cycle. Apparently every 10,000 years, we have a little mini ice age of 10 years, or 80 years, or whatever it is. I forgot. But I mean, these happen. I mean, it just depends on how far you go back. Like a lot of these scientists, they're like, oh no, it's changing so much, it's changing so much. But if you look at the data that they're looking at, it's only like, a decade or 2 decades. Like if you go to the guys that zoom out even further, that go study 6, 7, 8,000 years ago, it's just normal weather cycles, really. Like, I mean, we're only on this earth for like 70, 80 years. Like we don't really know what the weather pattern is going to do 1,000 years from now, or even let alone 10,000 years from now.
Well, a little plug to a friend of Garnet Doom, and then someone who I would consider a friend of mine now, George Mitrovic. He's down in Southern Australia, and he's written a book. Only his first volume is up. It's called The Great Climate Change Deception. So you can buy it on Amazon or wherever you can find it. George Mitrovic, Mitrovic. No, it's not a sponsor or anything like that, but he's been on the show several times, and he's a friend. But
free plug.
And yes, free plugs. I did that. But so whatever you think about climate change and all of that, he has made predictions in the past, wrote about, or discoveries that have come to pass. I mean, he found planet number 9, and then now it's been verified that planet number 9 is basically exactly where he said it was going to be. And he also found, what else did he discover? I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank right now, but there was something else. Oh, the comet tails, like some almost 12,000 years ago, led to the end of the glacial maxim, the Younger Dryas. That comets, cometary impacts accelerated everything. The end of the ice age, the flooding, the volcanic activity, everything. So and that's pretty much, I mean, people still debate what came first, volcanoes, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't scoff at what he comes up with out of hand, because he's done it before.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely send me the link to that. I definitely want to read that. I'm fascinated about stuff like that. When I started going down that Tartarian mud floods, like a lot of those things made sense to me, but I'm not going to give it away to you guys. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on that. But if you see it, like there are people like just one example, like a lot of the places, a lot of these cultures, they have the temples or cities carved into stone.
Yep.
So these guys think that this wasn't carved into stone. These were buildings that were kind of just like melted, fried by whatever technology at the time. And I don't know, that sounds really weird, but once this guy sends you look at all these pictures, it makes sense. You're like, yeah, that's definitely a melted building. Like how you see a melted candle, like that's just the rock somehow have melted. And he's gone even further looking into these things. Like everything on this planet is carbon based. That's how we can date things. And so carbon has 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons, but there's something called red carbon, like we see in the desert here in Moab, in Utah, right? That red carbon is like 369, which comes back, which is very, it could bounce energy and all kinds of Wi-Fi signals and stuff off of it. So it makes you think too. It's like, because we don't even know who built the pyramids and how they built it, right? They definitely had some kind of weird technology that we haven't even discovered yet, like the Pythagoras and these things, these theories that we know of were already embedded in the pyramids. So whoever built that thousands of years before already had this knowledge. So who's to say they didn't have this technology that could fry the whole earth or whatever? But yeah, that's once you guys go down that rabbit hole, it's gonna be fascinating.
I have the mud floods written down on my little cheat sheet right here, and I'm not gonna look at that tonight. That's more of a tomorrow morning thing, but yeah, for sure.
It's not a nighttime task. It is something. So I'm old enough to remember when everybody watched General Hospital, and the big thing was Luke and Laura. And Luke and Laura were battling a guy named Mikos Cassadine who had a weather machine. That was, so that's how far back that this was going. And I'm sure they're not the General Hospital isn't the ones that came up with it. Whoever those writers were.
And listen, full circle on General Hospital, someone always had a twin that just popped up like every 7-8 years, brother. My mom watched that. It's the only reason why I know. Every time wait a second, who's this guy? Luke's got a brother, twin brother. Oh, come on. But hey, listen, I'm all in on it. I'm all
evil
in.
Twin. Which one's the evil twin? Is it Nikki or is it Brie?
They're both evil.
That's right. False choice again. They're both evil. Definitely Boys from Brazil. Back to your cloning thing, if everyone remembers, where they perfectly cast Sir Laurence Olivier as a Jewish Nazi hunter. I mean, the most Protestant waspy guy alive. But still funny but still a fascinating book and a pretty darn good movie too, or at least I remember being so in 1976. So I'm not sure how it holds up, but Orphan Black Echoes. This is, thing about clones keeps getting visited and revisited again and again. I always talk about Altered Carbon, also the science fiction series. The books are great. TV series, season 1 pretty good, season 2 a disaster.
Maybe that's what we'll do for a couple of episodes. We'll break down some of these shows and be like, what if? Like, how would we implement this, or how could this be real? To me, all of it is in a way could be and will be eventually.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what I said in Battlestar Galactica. All of this has happened before, and all of this will happen again, which is sort of like as above, so below. And
nothing new under the sun. That's what the Egyptians said. There's nothing new under the sun. Whatever has been will be, and whatever. I mean, that's a verse out of every single religion too, right?
Whatever. Well, the infinity single is the 8 on the side. I mean, I'm moving my hands like a maestro, as if people can see an audio. But
what do they say in wrestling? What's old is new again. Every time.
It's old.
Every single time, man.
Every single time. And I mean as we both know, a lot of art imitates life and vice versa. So like these things that we say in wrestling applies to real life too, you know?
Sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, one of the complaints in wrestling from the fans is like, they've already done that before. I'm like, yeah, all wrestling is reruns. Get over it. I mean,
Same
it's
thing with movies. I'm a big thing with movies too. It's like, yeah, everything's kind of a remake of a remake. It's a twisted story of something else. We're fresh out of ideas at this point.
that's
Yeah.
right. It's just how the
That's
story is done with the characters and the dynamic, and don't copy it too recently after it was just done. That's the trick.
there's another topic of discussion there, like what's old is new and what's new is old. It makes you think, right? So everything that has ever existed probably has existed in some other timeline before, right? So when someone gets a bright idea to do something, like is he tapping into something? Like, I mean, you can read books on like Tesla. Like, I mean, he says he went into this cave and he spoke to these people who can just talk to him, right? And he closed his eyes. Same with Da Vinci, right? The alien technology that he came up with. Like, so where do these things come from? Like, do we all have that ability to tap into that ether or Akasha records or whatever people call those things? You know, like if everything that has ever existed has been before, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like, where do these ideas come from? It has to come from somewhere. Like, even like you look at sci-fi movies. I mean, this guy didn't just make that shit up. That idea has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, isn't that what Toth is said to be doing? He manifests every so often with a different name and gives a little bit of that information, or a lot of it, to different, I guess, acolytes, prophets, the deserving, the Jedi. I don't know. Are you a Jedi? I think if anyone here is a Jedi, PJ would definitely be a Jedi before me.
Absolutely.
Definitely in a previous life. And I've done some past life regressions and stuff. I'll tell you some about those sometime when I'm comfortable to share those.
I'd be like thug number 6 in Jabba's corps that, definitely gets shot twice and beat up by Princess Leia first.
But in one of the lives, like if we know that third law of thermodynamics, energy can never be created or destroyed, right? So your soul is just energy. So so we've all been here since the beginning. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. So if you think that was one of your lives, that probably is, but you were probably all the others too. Like you get to, it's like a video game. You get to play all these characters before you're done here. But I don't think it'll ever be done. Like, you were just drawing the infinite symbol, right? I think that's what time is. It just keeps going. There's no beginning. There's no end. It just keeps going. We'll just keep getting reincarnated as different things, forms, beings. Who knows? That's just one of my theories.
Well, go back to the end of Battlestar Galactica, where you had I guess now immortal number 7 or whatever her name was, and what was the bad guy's name? Baldar, Dr. Baldar, and they're walking and they see in the toy store a little Cylon, doing like the symbol thing, like a monkey, and they see another Cylon in the human city. They said the only thing they got wrong is it said 150,000 years later, and they really should have said 250,000 years later. But aside from that, it was, it's just about. It was just about. Then again, what do I know? Maybe they know better than I do the timeline. I mean, carbon dating isn't good after 50,000 years, so who knows what that margin of error is. Mr. Thomas, did we get to all of your topics?
Yeah, good. I mean, the only thing I had written down was, I'm just curious why all the cults turn into sex cults. And I just know it's just one guy's just like, hey, can I just fuck your wife? And they're like, well, all right. And then I think that's usually how it ends. But we can talk about Scientology on another day, I guess. But we'll figure it out when the smoke clears.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I mean, one, it's about absolutely controlling and sacrifice. So in most religions, your gods demand some type of sacrifice, whether it's a firstborn or whether it's animals or some type of wealth. This is, you're sacrificing to your leader, your prophet, what's most dear to you, which would be your wife. I mean, unless you have kids, and I'm sure there are some cults that went that far as well. But that probably gets you on the FBI's list way quick with that. But we could definitely go into that more deeply. But I would think that for a 6-sentence answer, that I think that one would be mine.
For sure. I would definitely love to follow up on all these topics and come up with some other things new. If we can do a reoccurring thing, either next time you need me or next time somebody cancels, I'm always available. For sure. Anytime I can help out.
I think that's great.
I really like this discussion. I definitely want to get more into some stuff when I'm more alert sometime. But
I love that this was a little prep. It was definitely a good step into it with you guys, for sure. And I'll obviously listen to this episode and the ones in between now and the next time I'm back. And I'll have more topics to discuss, and maybe I can be more vocal on instead of asking questions, and maybe give a little bit more of what I think on my end. But
I think you've been great.
Great
Don't sell
topic.
yourself short. You've been remarkable, and I sort of like there not being so much prep because we have to be a little bit dexterous with our minds. It's a little organic. Every now and then there's a pause, but so what? We're people. This is not a scripted TV show, so I love it. It also takes PJ a little bit out of his comfort zone, but he also learns that everything is in his comfort zone. I mean, Tyrus was the one who opened up the show that he was on, saying, because PJ, this dumb something is always pretending like he's dumb, and the guy he knows about everything. Is like an encyclopedia. He's always teaching all the young guys everything. Then he ran into a story about PJ wrestling the megalodon and pulling the tooth right out of its mouth and making the megalodon apologize to him and all of that. But yeah, so PJ can talk about anything, and obviously I can. The trick with me is stopping me.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's it's asking the questions, right? Because someone will always have their kind of interpretation, or have read something, or have thought about a topic that they saw in a movie. Is like, wait a minute, like, does this make sense? Could this be real? And I think that's the fun part about it. Like, we all know little bits and pieces, but then we ask more questions. I mean, that's how science progresses, right? Like, you ask all the questions, and then you kind of like figure it out. And that's the process that I enjoy here.
Yeah, the other process is me being a small petty person. Is I stole John's friend. So there you go. He's my friend now.
We're all friends now.
We're all friends here.
I love it. If we're wrapping this up, can I plug some more stuff?
Go ahead, plug away, sir.
Again, it's just me. It's Mr. Thomas. I'm on Instagram and the Twitter, or the X, whatever we call it now, at Mocha Traps. If you want to catch me or MLW, we're coming to Atlanta on the 14th of September. We're going to St. Petersburg, Florida, which is right up the street from me, on October 1st. Chicago, Illinois, November 9th, and back to New York City on December 5th. Catch us at MLW.com, at MLW on all the big socials. I don't really ask for much. Watch the show if it's free. If you could get a ticket, I would like that. We usually sell out. Do something nice for yourself or a dog rescue. You don't have to buy a t-shirt or anything near me. Live your life. Do what you want.
Well, tell Court to book a show in Baltimore so I can come on down.
We don't have enough security for all that, brother. But if you find us a decent venue, we're open to ideas, but mostly we're a Philly territory. But
I have the answer to that. There is on University of Maryland, Baltimore County. There is, and PJ knows it, he's worked there. It's in the county. It's in Catonsville. There are Baltimore City buses that go there. It's right off of 695. Very easy. It's about a 4,500 seat arena for the basketball team, and I doubt that the rent is that much. So so it's there and it's safe. It is.
I'll push it towards the event, guys. Everywhere's safe. It's fine. We've wrestled in the way worse places ever.
I'm sure
it's wrestled in some shit boxes across the country, as have I. No one's immune to it.
Oh yeah. I mean, and that's not only the country. I've wrestled in 66 countries. I've been to some really obscure places. One day, I can tell you guys a funny story. So right before I got signed, I wrestled in the Congo, in the DRC, in the middle of Africa, where they shot gorillas in the mist. And one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I could probably write a book or at least a whole chapter just on that experience. But I'll tell you guys something funny that happened. So we were driving around, and every single kid had a phone. Most people don't have TVs. They don't have electricity. They don't have anything. But when they saw me and they knew I was a wrestler, every single little kid that couldn't speak English did this to me. And it's because they all watch wrestling, every single one of them, right? And so they have everyone has phones. Like every single, even like little kids had phones, but they didn't even have houses. They lived on the street. So they have this guy come with a bicycle with a basket on the back, and he collects everybody's phones, and he drives to the nearest like city or port or whatever. He charges everybody's phones, and he goes back and hands out the phones. So everybody has phones. Long story short, like I saw a bunch of homeless Chinese people running around, and I was like, well, that's so weird. Like in the middle of the jungle, there's just Chinese homeless people. And obviously they were businessmen, and they were importing these phones and the technology. So people like living in the jungle had phones. Everybody had phones. So I asked one of the government officials, I was like, hey, what's up with these Chinese people running around? So what happened, apparently, they started to build roads a couple of decades ago, and the Chinese government came in with the lowest bid. So what they did was they used all the convicts to come build the roads, and they just left them there.
The world will find a way. The world will find a way, but wrestling always brings the world together.
Right. Oh man, I have so many of those stories. You were talking about like obscure like places and like shitholes that I've wrestled in, but that's what's fun about wrestling. I got to wrestle at Madison Square Garden, Arena de Mexico, whatever the one is in Berlin that I always wanted to wrestle. Like Kurgan Hall. Like we get to go to all these cool places, but we've also seen some like crazy places. My first year in the US, I lived in Tampa, so I wrestled all those armories up and down the coast. And even just those were incredible experiences. And that's what I love about this business. You get to see all sides and all walks of life.
And it accidentally brought us together today as a replacement. I love that.
Exactly. And you know what? I taught seminars in Chile, and not one person spoke English. I had to get a translator to teach the seminar, and I've done that in so many different places. And I love that wrestling is a universal language. We don't have to speak the same language, but kind of.
Does he speak English? No, but he speaks good wrestling. Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's the best thing you can hear from someone. That's great.
Right. Super kick. Yeah. I got it.
Excellent. Well, I think that is a wonderful kumbaya moment to leave on, or a boomaye
Boomaye for sure.
Boomaye for sure. That's right. I keep saying things wrong. Yeah, we didn't even get into any sort of the West African to West Indies, Caribbean kind of legend and lore kind of thing that fits within that universe either. But maybe next time, who knows?
Next time, put it on the list. We'll put it on the list. Next time we'll have our list.
Two added to the sequel.
Yep.
Excellent. See, well, I also don't, just because somebody plays that on a wrestling show doesn't mean that it's actually part of your real life either. So, yeah,
and we've come up in real time, right? Like you always tell me like, hey, what about this person? He plays this character, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure not, but let me find out. And that happens a lot, Like,
I know sometimes I'm a little bit disappointed. I'm like, they're not a Satanist. Come on.
Be surprised. I always say that. It's always like Boomay is for the people, and like culture is a big word right now. And I'm like, I don't know. It's really just me. I'm trying to just do the best for myself. All right, the culture has got nothing to do with me, but if it works along the way, I'm all for it. Type thing.
Yeah, so. You never know. We could, we can pretend. I mean, the two of you are at least trained actors. I'm just a blithering know-it-all that knows he doesn't know very much. So there you go. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. If you want to follow me, you can find me on the X, formerly known as Twitter, at IcarusFellMD. If you're brave and you want to see the worst of me, you can follow me on at Dose Evil, which I've recently changed my handle to become an AEW stan because I give up. I've surrendered. I decided that it's better to join them than be beat by them. So there you go on that. And as far as this show is concerned, well, if you're listening to it, you probably already follow it. But if you're not, if you were brought in because of Mr. Thomas or Miss PJ Black tweeting it, or Tyrus or any of the other people who've been kind enough to broadcast the show, just subscribe to Garden of Doom. You can find it wherever you want. You can find it on the Wrestling Soup Network podcast or network because they're kind enough to let me on their network. I also do Black Letter Body Slam, which are legal shorts where wrestling and law intersects. But Garden of Doom, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, Podbean, you name it. And you get Garden of Doom, which is topics like this, just with different kinds of guests. You get professors, writers, mythologists, you name it, a lot of writers, etc. Garden Views, I've already talked about during the course of the show. Don't need to talk about it again, except just to lure you in. My latest show is with an astrobiologist, so we can talk about what is life and where is life, or where could life be, which ties into this. And of course, Garden of Doom presents the Book of Black, where people in and around wrestling talk about the vast terrain of the Garden of Doom, and you're listening to that right now. So give a like, a subscribe, refer to your friends, spread the word. This is our retirement, talking people. You need to give us some help. So, all right. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for being an excellent sport, being so responsive, so amenable, and so flexible with your time. It was a gift, and it was terrific meeting you. Professor Black, PJ, the doctor, it's always great seeing you, and I'm sure I will be talking to you shortly. I know you got to run. And everyone, thanks for listening, and we'll see. Oh, Mr. Thomas, is there an outro song you would like?
Nah, play whatever you want.
All right. That sounds good. I'll figure out something. All right.
Thanks.
See y'all.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye.
For more episodes of Garden of Doom, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on the Wrestling Soup Network, available on all major podcast platforms. Garden of Doom is a weekly show hosted by Jeff Lippman and Dr. PJ Black. Follow Jeff Lippman on X at Dose Evil and follow Dr. PJ Black at DareWolf333.